Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. You're somewhere between a... Oh, Jesus Christ. My mic has been fixed since last week. Last recording, something went terribly wrong with my microphone. I don't know what it was. But apparently it has been more than corrected because I was peaking almost immediately. Back to my regular volume. Who knows what it was. Anyway... We're here. Indiepocalypse Radio, of course, is you're somewhere between a post-con hangout and a what's it called? Fucking talk show. That's the other part of it. And listen, I got a cop ad. I didn't even think I had ads. I don't know how you. Maybe it's impossible to not turn on ads, but I tried to turn them off to the best of my ability. Because it's whatever, this thing doesn't make any money. This thing being Indiepocalypse Radio, I'm your host, Andrew, the host of the aforementioned show and all the other stuff related to Indiepocalypse, the monthly anthology. We are here with a pair of guests, not game developers this week, but people approximately around the space, perhaps some even more approximate than others. We are here with our first guest, who, in the context of Indiepocalypse, may know from doing the cover of Indiepocalypse 42, but also does many other comics and illustrations around the internet. It's Katerina Garbacci. Katerina, how are you doing today?
Fine. What's a video game?
Okay. So there's a little guy, right? And he usually runs from the left. He usually runs from the left to the right.
Oh, like my friend Mario.
Yes. And then he'll sometimes get points. But then there's like this little guy. There's like this little weird mushroom guy. And like he doesn't like you. He's gonna get you. And I don't really know how to avoid him yet. I haven't figured that out.
I think you need to punch him. I know Mario is like a great fighter.
Yes. Well, I tried talking to him, but I couldn't find the talk button on there. I think it's
French.
Yeah, I think the problem is there was like one of those like Famicom to NES releases where you're supposed to use the built-in Famicom microphone, but as an NES user, I don't have that. So it's weird. Yeah, it's really weird that Mario caught on in the US, despite being like unplayable. But this is the world we live in, you know.
I know it makes no sense, but I'm not Nintendo guy, so I'm. That's just he knows better than me.
Yeah, right. Who am I to tell Mr. Nintendo what to do? You know. But video games aside, for now, if people are unfamiliar with your work, how would you? It's always a weird thing to tell an artist. How would you describe your work? Or what do you do?
I mean, right now I am in an awful position. No, right now I'm working. I'm doing my monthly.
If you're talking
about that lesbian lizard.
Sorry, I lost you for most of that.
Oh no, I got lost. I paint. And I do comics.
Yes.
And mostly do fantasy, like fantasy stuff.
Yes, and a first issue just came out. Very recently, right?
Yeah, almost like a month. No, a little less than a month.
Yeah, 12 days ago. According to itch.io. Yes.
Excellent. I since I live like in my home and I don't, as you usually do, live in your homes.
Yes.
But I don't have regular jobs.
Right.
I just like paint whenever I get commissions. I never know what day it is. Like I really like today is Saturday, I guess.
Yeah, you live in your home like most people do, but unlike most people, you're not required to leave it at any point necessarily.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to organize vacations with my friend who has like a normie job, and it's like, oh man, you cannot just. Why can't we just take the train on Wednesday? Like, what's the problem? It's
right,
good
right.
prices. Yeah, it's prices are working.
Yeah, I don't work weekends, and it's even weird. Oh, you work on the weekend? Don't you have the whole weekend open? Like there's those multi layers of normal jobs.
Mm. But you guys like get more money. I hope so. Like if people are not getting more money than me, just doing like a couple of commissions a month, then it's like,
Right.
oh man, capitalism pay you.
Yes, yes. I think it failed a long time ago. Uh,
Mm.
and there are definitely people I am certain. It's that curse of why am I doing so much work making the least amount of money legally possible?
Eh.
That's fortunately not my case in this situation, but it's stable. I think that's the main benefit is like it's theoretically stable. Like if Twitter went away tomorrow, my job is doing just fine.
I used to do it, and it was like, excellent. I spent 3 hours thinking of that. Maybe
Yes.
this is not a great use.
No, it is. Finding one that works is the trickiest part of getting a job, you know.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
like, like
If you find out how, tell me.
I kind of enjoy the one I've got now. It's very low key, very simple. But there, as increasingly corporations buy up everything around you and become the existence or become the sole proprietors of all businesses, and push that working culture down onto everybody, it becomes increasingly harder to find a good job, so to speak. But
Oh no, that's. I got like I got my like. Let me tell you like a great secret to
yeah,
make it as an artist, and is uh, having your mom transform your old house into two smaller house so you cannot pay rent. That was my secret
right.
on like on like being able to live off as an artist is like not having to pay rent.
Yes,
That's
that's
like
the secret of most artists, and you know,
where is
uh,
that tutorial?
right. There's just I think I said the show a couple of weeks ago talking about like, I think I was talking about game developers who oh they were able to spend so much time making their game based on their partner's salary, and I think that partners who pay for game development should get executive producer credits by default. Honestly.
Oh hell yeah! I'm gonna ask that to my wife. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's writing an amazing novel, and she finished an amazing novel. So I should get like a chief executive editor or something like that.
Exactly right. The people who are just like who give the person the space and the time to do all that, truly, just give them that EP credit. They deserve it.
I should get my mom and dad like to be like, oh yeah, these are my producers. Like,
Right.
thank you,
Exactly.
mom, dad.
Right. That because that rent that's a heavy hitting one. That is.
Yeah, rent. It's not getting cheaper in Argentina. Let me tell you that.
No, I don't know if anywhere where it is getting cheaper. And often the problem is when it gets cheaper, everyone flees to the place where it's cheaper, and then it goes up again.
Yes.
And it's just
Oh yes, yes.
it's just a matter of running from place to place to place to place until who knows. And also you can't just like pack up and leave. It does. I don't think life is so convenient that you can just like, oh well, I'm just gonna pack up everything and go somewhere else.
I feel like artists, especially now, we need to start like getting used to the freelance life. That
Yeah.
we are not getting like office artist jobs anymore. That don't exist. Forget about it. That was something like they did like for 20, 30 years in the other century. Now we need to be able to move everywhere. We need to be eh, like people that can live on their backpacks. Otherwise, you're fucked. Otherwise, you're trapped in New York, and it's like that's the worst place to be trapped.
Yeah, not a super expensive place to live. That seems like especially the freelance life is one I'm blissfully free from, because it seems like true difficulty to live that life. Oh.
Again, it's easier when you don't pay rent. That's like
Yes.
my big tip to make it as an artist. Don't pay rent. It's,
Right.
It's like life change.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's
insane. It's insane how easy it is. Like once you don't pay rent.
Right, because
It's like what? Why? The system.
yeah, you're like, well, when I, after like a long time, like nigh on a decade after I paid off my student loan and my car, and I was just like, I have so much money now.
This is easy.
Yeah, it's like, I was like, yeah. How do you start Indiepocalypse? You spend a month paying off all your debt, or a month rather, a decade paying off all your debt. And then you use that extra money to pay people to make games and art for you.
Yeah. Like, where is that tutorial? Because I'm thinking about that. Like, if I see another fucking tutorial of how to present your portfolio, hey, how about you pay my rent?
You're right. Yes, it is. the hidden part of everyone who says your marketing tips emoji thread. And it's the tired.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, just it's like, make sure you spend 3 hours doing this, 6 hours doing this, 6 hours. Like, what? I'm like, where do you get the time? It's like, oh, this is your only job. Well, where do you get the resources for this to be your only job? And that's
and you see a couple is like, oh yeah, I took a couple of years because I am raising a family. It's like, fucker, who's raising that family with this money? I know how much this job pay. There is something you're not telling me.
Right. Yes. There's the secret. the spend. Anyone who gives marketing advice should also, or just like art creation advice, legally have to attach their yearly salary, and their inherited wealth to every post, just so we know what's going on.
I am always telling people, like, I have a lot of good advices about how to do art and all that stuff. Remember that I don't pay rent. That's always like the first thing I need to add.
Right. Yeah, that is.
It ends up paying, like, every time I see people, just do what you like and you will find your niche. And it's like, yeah, cool, thank you, Bobby Chu, but I need to pay rent in the middle.
Yeah, no, yeah, the secret to making a small fortune as an indie dev is to start with a large fortune. Yeah, right. It's when you see, like, how to earn passive income. It's like, buy these stocks and get these dividends to earn passive income. And it's like, okay, well, where do I get the $700,000 I need to spend to get that passive income? And it's like, oh,
yeah,
you don't.
Right? I think, like, okay, if I had $7,000, like, I will be set for like solid two years. I think, like,
yeah.
I don't need passive. That's my passive income. Those $7,000.
Right. Yes, exactly. It's like, I guess I could just invest it all so that I can make $20,000 a year, but also you can spread $700,000 a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, like, come on, potatoes are not so expensive. I can eat a shit ton of potatoes.
Yes, I don't suddenly develop caviar taste because I have a lot of money,
Yeah, like, oh, come on, it's just like potatoes and hot dogs. That's fine. You don't need more than that. Maybe a couple of some fruits.
Now I have a very crucial question for you, Karina. What are your hot dogs like down there in Argentina?
Not like. Fine, you can get some good ones, but it's like, I mean, hot dogs is one of those things where the worse it is, the better it is. Like, you can get some good hot dogs in a meat shop.
Yes.
With the butcher, you can get some good dogs in there. But come on, if I wanted to spend like butcher money, I would be buying like a steak.
Exactly, right. But what's your prep style like? Is it standard like American style ketchup, mustard, relish sort of stuff? Because that's the thing I'm always very curious about with hot dogs across different cultures of how you prep them.
We don't use ketchup, mayonnaise, and
Okay.
how do you call the sabora? Uh, mustard.
Yeah.
Ketchup, mayonnaise, mustard, and little chips, like little potato chips.
What?
That's the
I see. This is why I asked, because I never considered the idea of little potato chips on a hot dog.
Yeah, little potato chips, little chips like broken chips in the
Yes.
hot dog.
Oh.
Like,
Yes.
disgusting.
That is okay. The secret part of Indiepocalypse is really just me reaching out to people all over the world and learning their hot dog secrets. That's what I
know. It's such a personal experience. Like it's such a culture. Like I really need to know how are the hot dogs, for example, in Asia. Like
right.
I'm guessing they have some crazy dogs in there.
Right, but then there's also like the there's some of the like the chopped up in spaghetti style. Because I think that's like chopped up with spaghetti and ketchup. I think is what I've heard in some places.
Oh no! I cannot do that. No.
Yeah, but that's.
I mean, I respect cultures, but I can do that.
Oh, there's so many preps to them, and like, I am just fascinated by just like, that's why if you gave me $700,000, I'd still be obsessed with just like I don't know, run of the mill food. I guess like the simple diet, and that's what I'm often very interested in, more than like.
You know how cheap it is to make a good curry,
Yeah.
cheap.
Right.
Oh.
And that's like I love the staples, the cultural staples.
Yeah.
And
That's legit. That's legit a good advice for artists. Like learn how to be frugal because like you're not gonna make much money, but you want a good life. You're an artist. You enjoy like tasty eating. You enjoy like maybe a nice drink. Like try to get. As an artist, you need to develop taste. Well, enjoy the frugal life. You cannot. You need how to save money. You need to learn how to save money because you're gonna be poor forever.
Right, and nobody. I don't think we're getting patrons back anytime soon.
No, forget it. In this economy.
No.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right. Well, they're just using computers for that now.
You can ask the computer to make like your video game. It's going to be shit, but that's fine. You don't care. You're a pig slob. You're fine, but with the bad product.
Yeah, but it's like they're like the desire to have made art, but not the desire to make art. Is
oh yeah, that's going to be like very satisfying in the long term.
Right. No, it's the. I feel like a lot of that is just gonna like people are gonna do their things. They're gonna fade out and they go, oh, why doesn't it look like a thing these artists make? Is because you can't. Computers cannot imagine things. They just don't. They can't think, as it turns out.
And also the secret problem with AI art is that you cannot jack off to it. You cannot.
Right. Listen,
your
folks.
Brain knows.
They're like, we know it's
your brain knows
that it didn't come from a human. That the computer is tricking me.
Yeah. You know. Yeah, like making porn is such a like very complicated art that I suck at. I am so bad at making porn. Like I don't know. It's like studied like 10 years classical painting, classical art. I can do you a portrait. I cannot for the life of me make a sexy drawing. I don't know why.
No, that it's a skill in and of itself that gets like, because of the baggage we carry with it across most cultures, it gets kind of shunted off to its own little like zone. But it is in itself like a complicated art form to make it good.
Yeah. No. You cannot get, like, being Hamlet machine. It takes like the most skills. Like that's way harder than whatever my fucking knights. And knights are easy. They're fun.
Yeah, but they're
They're pretty nice. I will tell you. Like my
No.
knights are pretty nice. I need to go back to painting some knights. Like,
Yeah, but keep the armor on them. Take that. Once you start taking that armor off, you start running into troubles trying to make that your sexy knights.
Yeah.
Uh,
Maybe. You see, I cannot do sexy. I tried to do this painting. Like, I actually did a version of this painting. It was like a golden, like a knight and a dragon or something like that. And it's like a dragon sexually assaulting a knight. And it's like, I cannot do it. I spent like 5 years trying to like come up with that painting, and I never could do it. It's just like, does not work. It work. Like my work is not sexual. I don't know why. That's frustrating because I think good art needs to be a little bit perverse, and I cannot come up with the perversion.
well, you just gotta. I'm sure, deep down into you'll find it. Maybe eventually. I don't know, but
Maybe that's my white whale.
yeah,
The-
right.
The sexually assaulted dragon. Sorry. By the way, trigger warning for all the people.
Right. After the fact, but
Retro.
but Katerina, we are actually approaching the end of. So I've got two important questions for you as you approach the end of our segment here.
Yes.
First, question number one. What's your favorite type of rock?
My favorite type of rock, probably the river rocks. You know, the very smooth ones.
Yes. Now, this is an optional question. Do you have a favorite Toho character?
A favorite what?
Toho, the long-running bullet hell franchise.
Toho character. No, I don't think so. I'm not. I am friends with so many people into it. The only
Yes.
thing I ever watch like that's tangentially close to that is like a Kaider.
Okay, but no, that's
fucking sick, eh?
that's why it's an optional question, of course. But that said, Katerina, thank you for joining me today. We're going to be going on break, and we'll be back with our next.
Thank you for listening.
And we'll be back with our next guest.
Listening.
No problem. In about 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Goodbye for now. Hello, and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was The Wild, with places we've never been. We are here with our next guest, who you may know from writing on Crunchyroll and just other freelancing all over the internet. It's Adam W. Adam, how are you doing today?
I think doing okay. The weather's nice.
Okay.
Where I'm at, we're no longer in like a giant, horrible heat sink, so that's good.
Yeah, that is. I am in a heat sink currently.
Oh, I'm sorry you're going through that.
It's fine. That's just life. There was a weird thing in the process of oh, look at that. You've been in my like purview for a very long time, as someone who just I think what was it Comics Beat? Was that the particular?
Yeah. I interviewed you.
Yes.
For that thing.
And I was
together with is it Kel McDonald?
Kel McDonald, yes. And I was like, this person knows a lot of. I'll be honest. I had filled out a bunch of written interview questions for that Iron Circus Indiepocalypse project for a while, and some of them felt like they didn't even know what the project itself was.
Oh man.
Yeah. And it was like,
that's a problem.
It was also very clear that like a lot of people did not know at least what my half of it was. But I was like, this person knows a lot about like they're name dropping all these indie devs, like, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's because in my brain your name is Andes.
Yeah.
Then
Right. No, Shirobako is a great show
Yeah.
from many years ago now.
But that is one of those things where it's like people's internet names become like their real names in my brain, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's tricky because probably sometimes people can have a lot of different faces. Like,
Yes.
there's all the different avatars you had over the years. There's the different usernames you have. And of course, like, people themselves change as well, and the way they present themselves change, the way they communicate change. So
Right.
it can all be kind of messy. You just have a long string across time and space.
Right.
of
That's
who
what
people were. Yeah.
I like it when people don't change their avatars at all, because it's like
Oh, yeah, that does make it a little easier.
I can lock in on that. Imagine someone you meet someone and every 3 months they've completely changed their face. It would,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, like, in the anime community, you have certain shows that are airing, and people lock onto them, and they'll say, like, that is my show, and then just every week a new episode comes out, they'll change their avatar to some character. So
Right.
that'll happen occasionally.
Yeah, and then it's like, well, I don't know you anymore. How am I supposed to keep track of all these people?
Exactly.
That's why I picked
But
one.
even worse
Yeah.
is when a lot of folks all just pick, like, the same character or the same image, and you have to
Yes.
somehow tell between, like, 15 different versions of the same character.
I feel like I have come across that before in my life, and I've confused people before, just at a glance. We're talking about primarily social media, but that all aside, I mentioned it briefly at the top, but if people are unfamiliar with the work you do, Adam, what do you do?
That's a good question. I guess when I was a kid, I did a bunch of anime blogging because I read a lot of it on
Yeah.
social media and followed a bunch of those folks. So I did that with some friends of mine. After that, I managed to get a couple of paid jobs writing for places like Crunchyroll News and that kind of thing. Got picked up by Comics Beat and some other places. I think the tough thing is right now, like, the freelance industry is sort of in the middle of having a heart attack, and so it's tough to find anything that pays, which is very challenging.
Right,
But I would
'cause
say that, right, go on.
I was gonna say it feels like a million websites are just imploding, which
Yeah, and there weren't that many websites to begin with,
Right.
which is scary. It's like you're like, maybe one day if I could get a piece published by Waypoint, that would be amazing. Oh, whoops, Waypoint's no longer there. Goodbye.
you're
Or
right.
even just something like, was it Glixel or whatever that Rolling Stone did that
Oh,
existed for like
right.
a year?
Yeah,
Or Launcher, dear departed Launcher, which published some good stuff and got obliterated by the Washington Post because it wasn't Wordle, I guess.
right. That's what happens to pretty much everything. Just gets obliterated
Too
after
bad.
a year or two, because it just doesn't. It makes more. There's more money to just publish SEO guides or whatever, SEO trash.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes I do kind of wonder with the stuff that's published, even folks who do it with the best of intentions, I do wonder how many people are actually reading these things online. Like, it's the whole internet just full of
Yes.
stuff that people write and put out to be read that no one ever touches.
That's a thing I do think about sometimes, and
A
kind of
pretty
like,
existential fear, really.
and why I worried to some degree about like, oh, I don't have to worry about getting people to read articles, because are people still like, if I get people to read them, or if I like, yes, I finally got this IGN article, like, does anybody read it to begin with?
Yeah. Even if you share something on social media and you see other people retweeting it or sharing it, you think, are they actually reading the article, or are they just sharing it so other people will see that they're sharing it?
Right.
Or they're sharing it so other people can read it, and that's hard to know too.
Yeah, that's like, right. Is anyone even engaging with? Is anyone engaging with anything, or are we all just sharing everything?
Yeah. But on the other hand, there is something nice. Like, I have a couple of friends, like, I'll share something with them and I'll look at it and I'll say, oh, this is great. I like this and this. Like, maybe you can work on this next time.
Yeah.
And it always makes me feel kind of happy, like, just having evidence that people are engaging with each other's work.
Right.
And it's something I could probably stand to do more of too, like, not just saying, hey, please read my piece, but like actively championing other people's work too. I think that's also important to like building a community of people that engage with each other's stuff rather than just constantly trying to stump their own things and never really creating anything that lasts for longer than
right.
like a week. Yeah.
Yeah, because like, how much stuff sticks like a thing I think about, if and this is semi-related, is like if something is archived and nobody talks about it, is it like truly preserved, And
yeah. I mean, you're lucky if something's archived at all.
Right.
I guess if you're lucky, the Internet Archive will pick it up. But there's tons of sites out there that did lots of good stuff that just vanish or get buried.
Right. That's the a sentiment I've seen in acting and writing is they were like they were worried about like embarrassing videos, just like, oh, this stupid video I made for $60 for Funny or Die is just going to be on the internet forever. And now it's actually the fear is the opposite.
It applies to game stuff too.
Yeah.
Like a scene that I've been lurking in for a lot of years of my life is RPG Maker scene.
Yes.
Which has a ton of stuff, some of which is quite interesting, and a lot of which is like sort of just sort of floating detritus. Not to say that's good or bad, just you'll have a 12-year-old who like makes a project, posts it on the internet, sort of forgets about it, but has fond memories of it, right?
Yeah.
You have a lot of that stuff just floating all online, but then when it disappears, you sort of ask the question, well, what happens to it? Like, should it disappear? Should we do what we can to keep it around? Whether the net's kept around, does the person who created it still have any say or control over it? Especially like with these groups of artists that work with these older forms of software.
Yeah.
When those projects are lost, then you're sort of losing out on the work of these communities, and that can be kind of a sad thing in its own way.
Yeah, I have at least a few, I think, games on my hard drive that I could not find. I could not trace back to being online anywhere anymore.
It's too bad.
Yeah, and that I'm actually on your RPG Maker dungeon page right now, scrolling through it. Not actively reading it.
I have a page on co-host where I haven't done anything for it in a while. I want to do more. It's just thinking of... I started it as a way of trying to do pieces that were smaller, but then it kind of spiraled out of control. So now it feels like, to do the next thing, it has to be some large object, right?
Right.
But,
because I think part of that feels like the curse of content creation. You have to.
Right. You just want to build a bigger thing, but that's not always good because then the bigger thing spirals out of control.
Right.
I would say if folks want to learn more about this stuff, I would also say check out Castell's page on co-host.
Yes.
I think they go by the name like High Impact Sex sometimes on Twitter.
They do, yes.
But they've been reviewing a lot of games for this recent Wolf RPG contest. You have an engine called Wolf RPG that's a bit like RPG Maker, but it's different. And they have a contest every year, I think, where folks submit entries. A lot of it's in the Japanese scene, so it's pretty impenetrable to English language speakers, but Castell has been going through all those and doing some write-ups. There are some especially cool ones in there, just like lots of stuff. Actually, Andrew, since you've talked in the past about like having games like not needing polish and like that being a potential thing.
Yes.
Castell talks about one in particular that's like a game deliberately designed to look like someone's first game that's like full of errors that will just shut down the game. So the whole game's about navigating past the bugs to try to make it to the end.
Yes.
In dialogue with the people that made it, which is it's a risky idea because like I feel like for a lot of folks they'd hit the bug and their game would crash and they'd say, okay, I'm not playing anymore.
Right.
I think it's great that in communities like this they ask folks to be engaged enough to take it on its own terms and sort of plan around it, and it looks like it has gotten like an audience in that respect, which is cool.
Yeah, no, I love very like niche art, sort of. It doesn't feel like it's being made for what's it called? Yeah, like an audience, if that makes sense, or a smaller audience, or because there's so much stuff that people make that like we were joking a little in the first segment about like marketing advice and that sort of thing, but a lot of that the marketing advice is like boils down to the kind of stuff that gets made of like, oh, you got to make sure your game is like this, that, and this other thing and XY. It's like, oh, let's make sure.
I mean,
Sorry,
to be fair, those kind of niches can also lead to bad behavior.
Yes.
Like, do you know the game Butterfly Soup, right?
Yes.
Did you ever hear about Palm Gets Wi-Fi?
That sounds familiar.
So, Brianna Lay, who did Butterfly Soup, she did a game called Palm Gets Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
That went up on RPGmaker.net, which is like a funny game about a Pomeranian that's trying to get Wi-Fi, and there's lots of jokes, and it has, I think, like multiple endings and that kind of thing. It's pretty cute. But so it got shared, I think like PewDiePie played it or some major YouTuber played it, and so it just became extremely popular, like more popular than most of the other games in this RPG Maker site, despite the fact it didn't have a battle system. It was pretty short. It had like a bunch of custom art in it, which was cool, but it was sort of just a project to play around with, not some kind of larger epic. And so I remember the game just getting all these really mean reviews from people like, oh my gosh, this isn't a real RPG Maker game. It doesn't have like multiple characters or side quests or whatever.
Right.
And people just got so set on this idea that because this game didn't fit the arbitrary standards of the community, it was somehow like not a correct game or something, even though it was perfectly functional for what it was. And of course, like when Butterfly Soup comes out, that actually gets more attention than probably most other games in this community would ever get, aside from I think like Lisa came out of there. There's like an early Lisa the Painful thing. I don't know if Lisa the Painful is made in RPG Maker, but like an early iteration of it was. I'm pretty sure.
At least I believe so. If not the first. I didn't realize you can be verified on itch.
I didn't realize that either. Jeez, that's pretty amazing.
The first time I've ever seen it, but that
I wonder
is.
if this can be used for evil. Yes.
Or I wonder if it's just like you run into situations where some people are like big enough that people just like rip off their stuff enough.
Oh, yeah, that is probably dangerous. It's true.
And so they need to know, like, hey, look, here's this person is not the ripped off version.
Yeah. I've heard it'll sometimes happen on Steam where people just take the games of hobbyists and just sell them for money, which is pretty unfortunate.
Right, because it's a whole other like market of Steam of like just hoping for like, hey, like this is like, oh no, they're not actually posting it on here, so I'll just post it on there. I'm sure plenty of people do it on itch on its own anyway. They'll just like. There are probably mountains of re-uploads here and there, of...
It's very possible.
Oh, just like...
sometimes you will have stuff like folks will translate a game and they'll post it on itch and say, oh, we're the team that's like taken this game someone else made and made it accessible to their audience.
Right.
I guess so long as they reach out to the original makers, then that can be good. But,
right, or I think the practical thing is just post it on the actual page. It's like, oh, I made a thing for you. That's the weird thing about like translations of what's it called? Like translations of visual novels, which are like more common than you think. And like so many like free visual novels will be in like 6 different languages, and because it's its own like particular niche community, and there are just like I don't know. There's a lot of niches. There's a lot of things, and I always just try to avoid becoming too insular. Yeah.
Well, visual novel community. If we want to talk about insularity.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's better than it was. Definitely from when I was like probably in high school or college. Back then, you had a lot of folks that were fighting over translation quality. People who were saying this game is like 1 billion characters and all the text is vertical, and so therefore it's like the best, and people would argue over that. Now I think it's a lot saner. You have more knowledge about this stuff, and people talk about these things in a more down-to-earth way.
Yeah,
nice.
And I wonder how much of it is just like game culture and is fracturing more, hopefully, in a very good way. In the way like every other art form is largely fractured, with like maybe a big pop culture thing, but there's very little of like this is the one thing kind of thing.
I guess it's also like with something like visual novels, I think you sort of people have to digest it first.
Yeah.
Like now you have a lot of folks that are doing really cool indie visual novels going up on itch. Stuff like I just finished Our Wonderland recently, which is like a pretty cool horror game. Aria's Lemma Dehumanization, which is very interesting. There's like a bunch of stuff that's like certainly doing a different thing than you'll see from like a lot of the popular Japanese visual novels, but I think is still like interesting in its own right. So
you're right.
It just took a little bit, I think, for folks to digest the influences and build something that was their own instead of copying the surface level of things.
It's something I think about sometimes with like, why put it in a Japanese school, you know?
Yeah.
And those kinds of, I'm like, we have U.S. schools, we have them here, we have like our own like bits of cultures and things like that, you know.
Right.
And I think you're starting to see it split from just like, you know, being a version of the thing you like, and like starting to abstract more of the part, or trying to split out more of the parts of it and bring more of what your parts are to it more meaningfully.
Yeah. It's like the visual novels of the early 2000s, which are like definitely a touchstone for a bunch of people, had a very specific set of visual and thematic signifiers that like feature games would continuously riff on. Like they'd first say, oh, this is set in this school, and then they'd say, okay, we have to come up with a reason for why it's set in this school, and then, oh, it's a plot twist that's set in this school.
Right.
It just kind of turns in on itself and in on itself and in on itself. And that can be interesting in its own way, but then you can also step back and say, well, what if we create our own set of signifiers? And so now you have hopefully like a bunch of different communities online that all sort of have their own in-jokes, and they're building out things that like maybe take some influence, but also they're drawing from like a larger well. So hopefully that'll lead to more and different places, which I think is better for art in the long term, probably.
Yeah, I am very... I think games are like approaching probably a very interesting space, like in like 5 or 10 years, like,
right,
or they'll feel closer to where they'll feel more in line with like other mediums, where it still sometimes feels a little too like people wanting to be singular, you know?
Yeah. Could I ask you a question? What do you think about scale? It feels like I was talking with a friend a day or two ago about, like you said, sort of games as compared to books, as compared to other mediums. And something I was thinking about games that's pretty wild is games as like a medium. They can contain like a 5-minute text game and also like a 100-hour $670 Zelda thing.
Yeah.
And it's still the same medium somehow.
That is something I have been saying on here almost every single week.
Right. But if you look at movies or television, or like, it's not the same for any of those. Even for text, I think you can say there's a difference between a novel and a short story. They have different goals. But I think text universalizes it, so at the very least, like, you're still building around a specific structure.
Yeah.
But when your object can basically be almost anything and be any size, just the idea of grouping it becomes farcical, in a sense.
Right. So many of like, games. It's very weird that we call them all games.
Yeah.
That we only have one singular word for everything. And I think that usually is what does a disservice to things that don't fit into the kind of like commercial game mold, because they are the outliers in that case.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that large things are bad or small things are bad. Just that it even gets to the point. I think about friends of mine who I've talked about this thing with, who they'll play larger games or a specific kind of smaller games. and you sort of think, like, how do you even begin to explain other kinds of games to them that are so completely different from like any other kind of thing they've experienced? I mean, I guess it's like that just when you're introducing any kind of art to anyone who like isn't so familiar with it. But
right, because it's not like it's kind of like you said with text. It's not just that, oh, these games are novels. No, it's like games are the equivalent of written text, which could be a novel, it could be nonfiction, it could be poetry, it could be a novella, a short story, it could be any number of things that fall in the
thinking about the splice between poetry and like written fiction gets at more of that, I think, because like a poem and a short story, I feel like they're getting at language from totally different places. Right.
What about plays?
Yeah, plays also, like the way it's delivered, the setting, the way that different actors can change the material, the way that each individual performance is different. That is true. Even though writing is involved, it's delivered in a way that's not at all the same.
Right. And, plenty of people, like, at least US-wise, plays are written as just text often.
Yeah, I will say that, people may be if this is the podcast, people may be listening to it after this happens. But if you like plays, look at Crunchyroll News tomorrow. You may see something interesting over there. That's all I'm going to say about that.
And if you're listening to this years in the future, search for Crunchyroll Plays, maybe.
Oh no, it's there's you'll see. I'll share it tomorrow on social media.
So you'll be able to find it. Perfect. And we are actually approaching the end of our little segment here, if you believe it.
Oh boy!
I know it cooks by, but now you've had time to prepare for these questions. So gotta know first, what's your favorite type of rock?
I like Master of the Fermenting Dregs a lot. Which is like this sort of Japanese shoegaze band. They put out like one or two really cool mini albums and one album before going dead, but they came back more recently. So they've been like performing concerts. I think they're actually coming to the US pretty soon, so that's exciting.
That does sound exciting. As someone who likes shoegaze and other... I've just got a cover delivered to me. Especially also like other countries' interpretation of shoegaze.
Mm-hmm. There's like their rock in Japan is still going, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of all over the place. You have a lot of sort of whatever bands too. But it feels like you still have folks doing interesting things. I don't know if in the US that's still the case. Maybe it is.
Yeah, I think it's probably, living more in the indie space than I feel like rock has been the domain of the indie space, like not whatever. Mm-hmm. Also, I don't know what mainstream is,
It's all relative, probably.
Right. I don't know what the mainstream thing is, but I know it is no longer rock's day to shine.
Yeah, which is cool. Every kind of music has its place.
Right.
Stuff changes over time.
I do know that when I was asking my phone to play, of course, Titus Andronicus' classic sophomore album, The Monitor, it instead played me a track from Destiny. Not Destiny.
Oh, that's really funny.
No. What's the game that was like Destiny? That wasn't Destiny. That like closed. I don't know. That closed after like 2 days.
Geez.
Anthem.
Oh, yeah, that was sad.
And I was like, in what world would I want this instead of? But then, like, that's also a fun thing of just like algorithms and like, this is what you think. Like, I feel like 10 out of 10 people, you ask them if they're into music, which ones they would, what The Monitor is,
Can people tell the difference between The Monitor and a song from Anthem? I guess that's the question.
That is called The Monitor.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so you have to make sure you specify these things. But speaking of specifying things, follow-up question: do you have a favorite Toho character?
That's tough. There are a lot of cool Toho characters. I think Marisa is cool because she has a giant floppy hat and shoots laser beams. What's her name? Sakuya is cool because she throws knives.
And stops time.
if you've played, that's true, she does. There's a really cool Toho indie game called Toho Puppet Dance Performance, which has like a fan translation into English. It's actually pretty easy to acquire. I think you can like buy it online and then like buy the translation patch and work it out that way. But Aya, who's like the Tengu news reporter, is arguably the strongest character in that game. So all of those are viable options, but probably Marisa because she's cool and is a hat.
Yes, likes to steal things.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm looking at the English patch included but not installed. I'm on the Toho kind of shrine.
Toho games are also a whole thing you can just go deep into.
Yes, you could just like
in English, but some of them are.
You could just sit around playing Toho games and like hit every genre.
You could.
And find yourself like immersed. It's the beauty. That's why I want things to like. I always think about like, oh, we really need to kill the blob of video game culture, because like there's just so much. And the idea of like anyway, we're gonna go on break. Adam, thank you for joining me here today.
Oh yeah, thanks for listening to me talk on for so long.
No, that's I mean this show's an excuse to get people on to talk to them and let them ramble.
Oh yeah.
We'll be back in about 1 minute and 58 seconds. Goodbye for now. Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was AJJ with Sorry Bro. We're back with the whole crew. Hello everyone.
Yeah.
I was just talking about I got the latest cover. Not the latest. It's so weird being like a month ahead now. Because I'm like, oh, I got the latest one, but not the one for August, but the one for September. And it's all ready to go, and it's sick as hell. But also the August one is also very good. Mm-hmm. If you're watching the stream and you can see them, cascading across the screen. But yes, everyone's here. As they say, I'm gonna close these extra tabs. So video games, huh? Weird little things. Have either of you been playing any video games lately? What are video games?
I only see my wife playing lots of video games. She's playing like Monster Hunter. That's all my like. Other than that, I just play Magic the Gathering Arena. That's all my.
Oh yeah, games. Classic.
Yes. Oh, if I had all the time in the world. Let me tell you how much of that would be spent playing Magic the Gathering.
And all the money in the world. Also.
Yes. A lot of it would be spent playing.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of that would be spent playing Magic the Gathering.
Hell yeah.
Because it is... a small pleasure I get from playing Magic the Gathering is... When I was still playing Arena, is like how aggressively people net deck in that game.
Yes.
And very clearly don't know how to play it.
Me.
A friend and I both really love the card Friction Obliterator because it's fun.
Oh.
And
that's fucking card.
But it's also like a really fun card
About card, but it's so fun.
Yeah, it's also a great card for Arena because a lot of people, it's not aggressively played and a lot of people don't know what it does. So you just slam a huge creature on the board and then someone burns it for 8 damage and you're like, and then you see the little light ups of their field and the little light up of your card to see like, wait, what did that card do? And
I love that.
And then they just surrender, or their whole board disappears, and then they concede.
So whenever a source deals damage to Phyrexian Obliterator, that source's controller sacrifices that many permanents.
Yes.
Wait, for every point of damage?
For every point of damage.
That's evil.
It is, but I mean, you can always exile it, kill it other ways. There's plenty of ways to get around that. But
yes, that's true.
But
and that's four skulls.
It's a real card, but it's so fun.
Yes.
It's like a newbie destroy.
Precisely, because people who don't read cards don't know what it is, and they're playing, like, say, like a red deck that just deals a lot of burn damage, and they're just like, oh, I have to kill this big creature, and then they kill your big creature, and they have nothing left. And it's the joy. We could spend a lot of time talking. I really love, because Magic is just because it's so old, and there's just so much stuff built into it, at this point.
I really enjoyed reading through Bruno Diaz's series of posts about Magic the Gathering on Co-Host. I don't know if people have seen that.
I have not seen
but
that.
There's lots of good stuff there. It's just her going through each separate era of Magic and talking over all the cards and the tricky ones.
Yeah.
Sort of tracking how the game evolves and the philosophy changes. There's probably like other folks who've written about it too, I bet.
Yeah, it is. It's because it's like a game. I mean, talk about stuff you could just only play. It's like a game within a game within a game, and there's like you can play so many different versions of it, and just like even like contextually within friend groups, like a friend group's version of it with whatever limited resources you have becomes like develops its own metagame and everything.
I am actually, this is very fun. I am actually like not developing. I am like designing a little game to role playing game with the fight system of like Magic the Gathering. So it's like you have like your little deck and you fight with that, but it's like a role playing game.
Yeah. Do you mean like tabletop or a video game?
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
cool.
tabletop.
Oh, right.
Dungeons and Dragons and Magic.
Yeah.
But not Wizard of the Coast because they are not paying me. Yeah. Hopefully one day.
Yeah, because I'm sure they pay very well. I'm sure they're eager to pay artists.
I mean, they pay very well if you're an Argentinian.
Yes, that's the other benefit of the U.S. dollar goes differently in different places.
Oh hell yeah! That's actually how I make my money by like taking advantage of like that little difference.
Right, the exchange rate.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the true. Like when when I've gone to like Canada, and it's like spending like a king. Of like, did you know you can get like checkout candy bars in Canada for like under $1? I've gotten them. And something I've never seen. Like I can't remember the last time I saw such thing in the U.S. They're like $2, but that's.
Inflation is like crazy in the U.S. right now, right? I mean, it's not Argentinian inflation, but it's pretty.
I have to imagine. And also, the U.S. is so big. I imagine things spend differently in different places.
Yeah, I think where I'm at in the U.S., it costs about $20 if you go out to buy dinner for yourself. That's like a main course. So it's pretty rough. It used to be half that.
Yes, it is.
Where you went.
It is very like, what's the word I'm looking for? It changes very much like between the different places you go to, because I'm sure you could still go to like a regular fast food place and get it for like a McDonald's style. But if you're going to even like the next tier up, you're gonna spend like $20. At least I am also going to spend like $20 on like Five Guys.
I mean, Five Guys burgers are expensive these days too.
Yeah, which is something you think would be like, oh, this should also be like $10.
Nope. Yeah, they used to be $10, not anymore.
Right now it's all sky. I mean, I'm in New England, which is, I imagine more expensive than other places in the U.S.
It could be the case.
But that is, though, you gotta the secret is to give all of your information to all the corporations and tell them you have a different birthday so you can get free birthday meals.
Yeah, the power of convenience.
Yes. So they have all of my information. They're tracking all my data and my purchases, but they do give me a free piece of chicken on my birthday.
I could do with some free piece of chicken right now. I have my cat over me right now. It's like making biscuits.
Oh yeah, my room, especially during recording, is a no cat zone. Not permitted.
No kitties.
Also, because
Possible.
I also have a tout.
Why don't you allow the kitties?
Because they have other places to go. They're content where they live.
But they want. Yeah.
And these ones are not necessarily the most like needy. We had one at one point that was like, you picked it up and then it would like want to be held like on his back, you know,
Aww.
and kind of cradled. It was very, very into it.
Yeah, cats can get pretty nervous about stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
I think I do a podcast with a friend of mine, and definitely you can put the cats outside, but then when you're talking, you sometimes hear behind the door scratch, 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 scratch. Meow, meow.
Right.
You have to let them in, and then you kick them out, and then you try to come in again, and it just repeats over and over.
I have two layers of safety here. I have two doors that they can't get through.
Oh, I see.
I have a stair door and then a secondary door, a room door. So
You're safe until they learn how to open doors. Then you're in trouble.
I don't think they can. I mean, at least not the spinny kinds.
Yeah.
The knobs.
There was like a documentary way back in the day where his cats apparently just leap into the air, grab onto the handles of his doors, and just open them up on their own.
Yeah, I've seen animals can learn to open handle-style doors, but knobs I think are trickier.
Oh, right. Knobs are probably trickier.
They lack thumbs. But
Finally.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh. You're so cat. How many cats do you guys have? What do you do with your cats?
I have two.
Babies.
But it's been like an ever fluctuating number in my life where cats just kind of show up. And then you have cats.
Aww.
Oh, right. You got to keep them inside so they don't kill all the birds in your neighborhood.
Right, yeah. And that's the
public service.
What are all these little chipmunk heads doing all over the place?
That's a good question.
Oh, no.
Yes. And then once we took that cat indoors and like, I guess this is our cat now. A lot more chipmunks. Like, tons of them running around now.
My family's old cat definitely used to do that. She'd like decapitate mice and just put the mice under the bed or under your pillow. Be like, there you go. It's my gift to you.
Oh, I think the thing was that he ate the rest of them.
Oh, right. That could also be it.
And left the skull behind.
Yeah, it's not like crunchy. The heads are too crunchy for them.
Yeah.
But that it is right, exactly. A bit too crunchy. Just leave it behind. But that it's a whole other thing about cats and pets and.
Right. Well, cats can't help being carnivores, right? Like it is what they are.
Right.
A dog can be more flexible, but a cat, it's not the cat's fault. It was born that way. It's just people have to do what they can to make sure cats get what they need without hurting too many other animals.
Right. I'm like, listen, I cannot convey my human morality onto a cat. It's a cat. It's just living its life, you know?
That's true.
I'm like, hey, you know, what's this? It's the same thing with like any animal. It's like, oh, you don't want to see the fox catch something, but it's like, what's the fox supposed to do?
It's true.
It's just.
I don't have a cat because I'm broke, but my family does have a dog, so I've been keeping an eye on the dog recently. Is how it's been going.
That was the other thing when my friend who has dogs are like, I'm like, oh right, I forget that people like pay for pets, having never paid for a pet.
Oh yeah. You have to get food.
Right. Yes, but like the purchasing the ownership of them, I suppose.
Oh right. That's true.
I'm like, they don't just like show up to your house and then they just live with you. They're not just like weird roommates that don't pick up their own weight.
Yeah.
That's how I found my roommates.
Yeah, right. They just don't carry their weight, but you got to feed them constantly. What a pain those guys are.
They
But
smoke all your weed.
I'm trying to keep cats out of those things, but it's like catnip to them. They just can't help it. And now, and then there's like the legality of it in we're in the U.S. now. It's like, well, now I have to go to the store and get more, or I can just get delivered. I think you get it delivered in Massachusetts. I don't remember, but
You can get the weed delivered to you.
maybe that's that's the thing. Once it becomes legal, the gears of capitalism take over. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys could just get like Uber weed.
I mean, probably basically. I don't think I can DoorDash weed right now, but I feel like it's not too far away from that you being able to do that.
I was visiting
that
New York.
segment-
Oh, go on.
Yeah.
No, that thing you just say is gonna age very badly next year. I'm like,
Yes, right.
I'm betting that next year you will be able to get some weed dash.
Mm.
No, sorry, you're Adam. You were saying New York.
Oh no, I was in New York City like a month ago, a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago, and there were weed shops like every other block.
Oh yeah,
So there's like definitely like branded stuff, I guess. Like the wheels are turning.
no, yeah. We've got billboards everywhere. They're sponsoring highways.
Yeah.
Like once that switch flipped, it's just like, yep, everywhere now. But they still have to be like in their own like dispensaries. You know, they can't be like at a grocery store next to the Marlboros yet.
Yeah.
But
And cigarettes are probably worse. But
Oh.
much worse, really.
oh yes, no, but the people will also still keep buying them. It's the weirdest thing I observed.
True.
I observed working retail for so long is the cigarette price going up and up and up and up and up and up, and people just still buy them, and it's like
Yeah,
they're so
pretty evil.
Yeah.
and like, but that's also I think like a huge difference between like states. Like I was in Austin for Staple, and I think they're like $5 or $6 or something. When they're like, I think they're like
Yeah.
12 in the in Massachusetts.
Mm,
Or something like for the cheapest ones, I think you're still paying over $10. Like, because I think they just keep
interesting.
adding taxes and taxes
then
and taxes onto them.
You know, in defense of cigarettes and against weed, like, yeah, they're way worse health-wise, but weed can make you way more annoying. So that's like, you know,
Yes, no, that's the one benefit is yes, cigarettes as a thing do not make someone more annoying in the way like alcohol or weed can.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think we need to take that into consideration in terms of laws.
Right. They from the purview of the non-participant, I think they both smell equally is not great, but yeah, someone smoking a cigarette is not as annoying. Or you're like, oh, this person has a ticking clock, at which point I can barely interact with them anymore.
Exactly.
But video, yeah. Anyway,
I'm gonna take a moment to
Yes.
shout out. There's a show, like an anime series from several years ago called World Conquest Zvezda Plot, where there's an entire subplot about the main characters teaming up to just outlaw smoking from ever existing in Japan. I think there's like episode 3 I think covers it, and then it sort of loops back in later. But you get a lot of gifts from that. Anytime people are complaining about smoking online, that just end up circulating around the internet.
well, because they also have a very
That
I
is
guess
true. I mean, this specifically refers to cigarettes rather
Yes.
than pot. Pot's
I
a
was
whole
gonna-
other thing.
right. They have a whole other
Like,
different.
Pot is like the scene in the last Kara no Kyokai film where the villain like takes the male lead into like a giant house of weed, and he's like, "This weed is 200 times more powerful than regular weed," and the main character's like, "Oh no!"
That is like
Different sort of thing.
right. It's very very funny how like it is like I mean, I think Reefer Madness was the last time weed was a threatening thing in the U.S., as opposed to just like a thing for, a cliche for layabouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in Japan, like,
From the
people
time
can
before.
still get their careers erased for being caught with drugs. It's pretty intense.
That was why I was surprised. I was reading that in one of like the Delicious in Dungeon like side books, when someone has like a weed patch on one of their backpacks. I was like, what?
Oh, interesting.
I was like, maybe America, our cultural export of we love weed is taking over.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
I'm looking. I'm trying to parse these shows by like looking at screen caps and closing windows. But yeah, no.
Yeah,
it is-
Ryoko Kui is really good for sure.
yeah,
Delicious in Dungeon manga artist. I hope they bring more of her short stories out in English at some point.
yeah. That's the thing I kind of like. Increasingly am like craving is like short stories, and like I'm like where's like I'm like I want the alternative stuff. Where's like the alternative stuff? Like now that like I mean there are really obviously there's like Glacier Bay and like Starfruit and other
For sure. Waiolia, right?
yeah Glaolia, and they do a lot of like independent like publishing actual small books as well. But I'm like first country was like such huge comic culture.
I mean, just wait until Glacier Bay puts out their Natsuji Miyazaki collection. That's going to be rad.
Yeah, no,
That artist is extremely good.
I'm like a full catalog owner of Glacier Bay. I've got those fancy I forget what you call them, but they got the little treatment on not the spine, but the thing that's on the other side of the spine. I forget what they call it. What do they call that on a book? The part that's the pages, but the outside part.
Not the spine?
Yeah, the other part of the thing that's on the opposite end of the spine.
Oh, well, that's a good question.
Anyway, they did cool little art on that, and I have all those.
The foredge.
Yeah, the foredge. I have the Glaolia foredge little stained foredge things. They look cool. If people didn't know that I'm an indie freak, if that was not obvious, and that translates into comics as well. And like, what if there was more like cool indies? Because there's assuredly like tons of like cool indie stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there definitely is.
For example, my wife told me I didn't like plug in my stuff enough.
Yes, that's what you're here for.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was talking to her about like, oh yeah, I start talking about insane shit instead of like plugging my my comic book. I start making Iggy
Mm.
about a list who is also a woman who has to deal with anime fights.
Yeah, and it's you can get it. That's perhaps a good place.
That's English.
A good place to start moving towards. As I'm getting hungry.
Yes.
Do either of you have any kind of like? Oh, I have important questions. I have things I need to get out. I need to say something before we start to wrap this show up. As I start to approach the runway to wrap it up.
Is there just one issue of Iggy Ann right now? Or are there more
Yes.
that are in the works? Oh, cool.
Yeah, second issue is coming like let me check. 2-3 weeks. I think in 3 weeks I can have the second issue.
Oh, that's exciting. So it's on its way.
Yes. It's a full action issue. Like the first issue is like lots of small vignettes and scenes, and the second issue is like more actiony. Actually, having a lot of fun doing like anime fights.
Yeah.
In comic book, and I think it looks nice. At least from what I'm looking from right now, in my studio. That is also my couch.
Right. which is also your home, which is also your everything. The life of the artist.
Where I eat, where I paint with oils, and I need to be very careful because sometimes you use turpentine and sometimes you're drinking coffee and you don't want to mix them.
No, definitely. I mean, you put coffee on your canvas. That's unfortunate, but survivable. You put
turpentine in your
that's
stomach.
Less ideal.
That's my. I think we have like 3 tips for artists. Don't pay rent, don't drink turpentine, and like learn how to cook curry because it's very cheap and very tasty.
Yes.
Curry is good. It's true.
And very filling too. Anything you put a rice base on.
Yeah, you can and then that's how you make art as an independent artist.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do like mainstream bullshit. Like you don't have to do Instagram crap that will get eaten by AI. You can do your stupid comic about a lizard woman fighting some skinless guy. That's my comic.
Perfect.
Nice.
Yeah, kind of
So
now that I think about it.
So if no one has anything else, I'm going to start wrapping up properly.
Yeah.
So Adam, if people are we've mentioned some of your stuff. We've mentioned Crunchyroll. We've mentioned RPG. I'm blanking the name. Dungeons, right?
RPG Maker Dungeon.
RPG Maker Dungeon. I knew I was missing a word in there somewhere.
/pig. It's out there.
Where if people want to find your stuff, what is the best place to look to find your work?
Good question. You can find me on Twitter twitter.com/Wendigo. You can find me on Blue Sky under the same address. You can find me at co-host at cohost.org/pig. That's where RPG Maker Dungeon is. I write things for Crunchyroll News sometimes. I just had a piece about this cool anime series called Mononoke that just came out. Not Princess Mononoke.
Yes,
but,
the spiritualist kind of.
Mononoke, that really cool 2007 series, just had a new film on it come out. The original character designer is not involved. Apparently there's some behind-the-scenes beef, but the movie looks really cool, so we'll see how it goes. Also write things for Comics Beat. I wrote a piece for them about this cool show called Yatagarasu, which is based on like a series of Japanese fantasy novels that have never been translated into English, but it looks like the show is going to try to adapt all of them. So I'm definitely really hyped for that. Also write things for Yatatachi. I wrote something for them about AMVs, like anime music videos, if you've ever heard about those.
Oh, Adam, I used to host a monthly AMV night on this very show.
So there you go. I hope to write more about those in the future, but also did some stuff about Korean webcomics there and about Ultraman. And there's some other stuff in the works there too. And just sort of popping up in different places. Anime Herald is another one that does cool work I've worked with, and some other thing.
Living the best freelancer lifestyle. Sorry, what was that?
Start Menu.
Okay.
Also, I've written some things for them. They have some cool people there. Definitely recommend checking them.
I think the Start Menu, was that an early? Is there the Start Menu right about Indiepocalypse early on?
It might be.
I don't remember.
There are a bunch of folks from the UK there, but they have like a bunch of writers that are more sort of getting. Well, some of them are pretty established at this point.
Yeah.
But they have a bunch of younger folks there, people who are sort of building up their careers, but are already pretty far along. So definitely keep an eye out there if you want to see some cool folks. Yes.
And like we talked about, this increasing implosion of sites and publications. Yeah. And, that's the untold part of that, or the less obvious part of that, is people need somewhere to start. So it's like...
That is true. Where do you start if all the places that people start are all gone?
Right.
It's tricky.
And if all that...
one more thing.
Yes.
I have a podcast called Unpacking the Shelf I do with my friend who's a big comics fan. So if you like listening to people talk about comics, we did an episode about Usagi Yojimbo recently. We did one about Volgahan Press. Before that.
I am... Oh no! It's facing the other way. I can't see. I am a long way through Usagi Yojimbo. I've been rereading them.
Yeah, there's a lot of it. It's quite long.
Yes. Well, he's still doing it.
Yeah. No, it's pretty. Like we were talking about it. Just one guy has been doing so much of it.
Yeah,
It's really amazing.
it's very good. I'm been enjoying it a lot. My secret indulgence is that I would just if I was a famous person with a vanity podcast, it would be about comics.
Oh,
So
there you go.
and a lot of it is because
You can invite me when you once.
one day. Mostly because, as I imagine, just looking through this, is that a lot of times people are like, comics are too split between, like, there's that regional split, you know?
Mm.
Where it's like, oh, I like superheroes, or I like manga, or I like, US, or...
I mean, there's European comics, Japanese comics,
Yeah.
Korean comics,
Right.
Dogman
Yeah,
and children's comics
we
in the
have a lot.
US.
Right, and so often when I look for things, I often find myself like, stuck in the like, okay, you only like this, but like, what? There's so much other stuff,
Mm.
and all these people are like in conversation, if not literal conversation, in like artistic conversation with each other,
Yeah. Katarina, were you going to say something
Yeah.
earlier?
No, I was just like getting beaten by my cat.
Oh, last.
But now, I do need to know, if we mentioned all this stuff, where could people find your work? Should they look to find it?
In my Twitter, that's the only place I am currently existing, or maybe Instagram too. But this Instagram is much like personal. My Twitter, Gervasi Caterina, that's my name, my surname, and my name.
Yes.
And that's where you can find my illustration work, my comic books that I'm currently selling in my Ictio page, each page.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's where I am.
Perfect. And yes, and that Iggy #1 just came out this very month earlier. So get in it.
Good. A good comic. And the English is better than my own English.
Right. That's, it's speaking and writing very different things.
True.
It's very Argentinian core. It's very like it's in English, but it's like I think you get, besides all the like comic bullshit, it's like, oh, we have superpower, there is this weird system, whatever. There is a really Argentinian, like, it really transports you to Argentina, to day-to-day Argentinian life.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, and that's also the fun part about, it's kind of why I alluded to with visual novels, like, why not set them in American schools? Like, it's like there's a part of the joy of seeing what other people is like. I'm just saying, I haven't seen any visual novels where somebody rolls a TV in on a cart lately, into a classroom.
Mm.
A true staple of American culture. But
It is like going to protests.
Yeah, that's like a certain kind of nostalgia for things that used to be crap. Like when your battery runs out or whatever. The show Mob Psycho 100 is like really good at nailing that, like Stuff by One, like lots of things that are just all about longing for half-functional technology and inconvenience.
You joke, but how many of our schools still have those half-functioning technology as their only technology?
Question.
I would be surprised if my what's the word? Not my alma mater, my whatever, high school still is. I'm sure they have DVD players now instead of VHS players, but I would not be surprised if they still I don't think there's a TV in I don't think that's a TV in every classroom kind of school,
Mm.
I think that's still we wheel the TVs that we have around.
Yeah. Now you have me wondering, like, what edition of Bill Nye the Science Guy they have in that school. Like,
Right.
how far back do the videos go?
Right, exactly. What is...
Civic vintage of educational this is what the salt crystal looks like when it's exposed to so and so.
All I know is I've seen Buscando a Nemo more times than I've ever seen Finding Nemo.
Oh joy! Oh jeez.
Oh.
I don't know if I've ever seen Finding Nemo in English actually, but I've seen it in Spanish a lot, like probably 3 or 4 times, because it was probably just here's the Spanish DVD we have. But that aside, Indiepocalypse, that's the thing I do. You can get that at indiepocalypse.com, of course. If you make games and you like to submit them, that's indiepocalypse.com/submit. There's a Patreon, indiepocalypse.com/Patreon, which is basically just like a magazine subscription, or you can get exclusively the commissioned games there. If you want to get things physically, indiepocalypse.com/tape or pizzapranks.com/tape market, where I also have a monthly tape club. This month's tape is Luca, Born of Dreams. Born of wait, did I say that right, or was it Born of? I'm second. Born of A Dream. I knew I was screwing up. Luca, Born of A Dream. And the sequel,
Big
Death
one.
of, what was that?
Oh, it's a big one. Luca,
Yes.
Born of a Dream.
Yes, Death of a Wish just came out, and you can get Born of a Dream on a neat cassette format today. And go out and get Death of a Wish also digitally. But yeah, no, part of it is like I think people ought to be able to, like, you know, indie game devs need more like cheap DIY releases, and I'm trying to make my cheap DIY releases for indie games.
If you're someone out there who's saying like, I really wish that more games today had the D counter from Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, Luca Born of a Dream has the D counter. It's there.
I am always thinking about that, about the D counter in Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter.
Yeah.
Listen,
Where is the D counter?
Before we get too distracted thinking about Breath of Fire, Dragon Quarter ahead of its time. Just underappreciated in its era. And that's like the point of. Anyway, before I get too distracted in saying about Breath of Fire, and Breath of Fire itself is also very cool, and I feel like it just looks great. It just looks great. Also, like those PS1s just like look amazing. Visual spectacles, like truly maybe some of the best looking games on the PS1. If not just like games, and if not just best looking RPGs, if not best looking games. Just so much character in that art. But
that's definitely like a specific era that we're no longer in.
Yeah, no, it feels like
replicate it.
It feels like it is like the Capcom like fighting game focused like character art like at its strongest and adapted to an RPG. It's like I understand all these characters based on how they move and how they cast spells different than each other and how they prepare their actions. Anyway, Adam, can I read it? Thank you both for joining me here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you both on the show. It's a fun thing that I like to do and love to have people on it. And you know, that's the benefit of the show is how often would all these people be in the same room together? And the answer is probably 0 chance odds, you know. But it's the same thing with the with publications. You just gotta create as many open doors as you can to have people together. Without having to like reach, especially without having to reach some kind of like arbitrary metric of success or something.
Yeah, that's the power of the internet.
Yeah, yeah, you can just do something. You can just email
the curse
someone.
Of the internet.
Right? Yes, you can just do something.
It gives and it takes away.
Just make sure the things you do are good. I guess. That said, we're ending the show now. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
So long.